Spurs focused on their all-Premier League, Europa League final against Manchester United in 10 days' time. If Ange Postecoglou's side win, it would be their first European title in 41 years. So both sides, Keith, bidding to salvage something from this season. Who needs the victory in the Europa League the most, Manchester United or Spurs?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's so difficult. Look, I think Spurs need it because they just need to get the monkey off the back and win a trophy, don't they? I think Manchester United probably need to win it to get some momentum into next season, and something that we've touched on already, qualifying for the Champions League gives them that power in the transfer market in the summer. Now, that would obviously give the same power to Spurs, but I just feel, looking at both squads, I actually think the Spurs squad's in a better place now. Obviously, they've not done well in the league this season. I think a lot of that has been down to a crippling injury list, but I think if Ange looks at his squad, he's probably fairly happy with it the way it is just now. I know he's missing a couple of players, James Maddison being one of those, but I think you look at the squad, it's strong, and I think they will do better in the league next season. I think Manchester United needs an absolute overhaul in the summer, so they need Champions League to allow them to attract top level players, but then Spurs need to win it just to win a trophy. Honestly, I can't answer it. They've both had such poor seasons in the league. I cannot call it, but I do believe in fate a little bit, I have to say. And Ange has obviously said a couple of times he always wins in his second season.
Wouldn't that be vindication for those comments, though, if he does get it? I think he could play that on a loudspeaker to everyone when he comes in. Yeah. I always win a trophy.
So I think he'd do a lap of honour of the Tottenham training ground, the press room.
Hopefully not in his thongs.
Exactly, yeah, indeed. But listen, I think it's interesting because Man United, they are going to back Amorim in the summer transfer window regardless. So Jim Ratcliffe gave that interview with Gary where he said, look, this is where we want to be. Their stated aim is to win trophies and compete at the top of the Premier League. Tottenham's is what, you know, we've had Hugo Lloris talking about the celebration, triumphalism around just getting to the Champions League final rather than winning it. We had Conte, those famous comments after the Southampton game before he left the club as well. And Jose Mourinho has also been quite scathing in some respects about the fact that he doesn't see them as a club that actually wants to push the boat out in a way that Manchester United would do and go and win something. And if you look at all the managers that have left, the Telegraph got a good piece today. They've all said that they've all gone on to better things. Even Nuno, who didn't look like a good fit, is with a Nottingham Forest side pushing for European football.
Looks great.
And so as far as Tottenham are concerned, they need to win it, because if they want to achieve what, you know, if they want to get into the Champions League places, it would be a good salvation, redemption for what has been a poor season. But I think as far as Amorim is concerned, whether he wins it or not, Man United are going to back him.
OK, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, we heard from Ange this week, and he did get a little bit spiky with journalists that kind of compared the domestic season between themselves and Manchester United. What do you make of his demeanour? Because you're in press conferences a lot. What do you? I know you're not potentially in his press conference, but what do you make of his demeanour with him?
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to Ange a couple of times when he was at Celtic before, and in a couple of Tottenham matches. Firstly, I think he made a good point during the week there. Like, I think that was a really good point, because he was getting asked about Manchester United, and it was like, look, let's talk about what this means to Spurs. So I think he defended himself well there. I think he's a very engaging character. He's great to listen to in the build-up to a game, at a press conference the day before, or in his pre-match interviews. I just don't think he deals too well with the stress of a defeat. He's a bad loser, but, you know, show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser. So he's a bad loser, and, you know, sometimes he doesn't come across too well in some of his post-match interviews. But that's just his personality.
I'm in two minds with Ange, because listen, I've been on this show before. I'm a big Ange fan, and I've even argued with friends who say, well, you know, he's always arguing with the media, but what do you do if you're in his position? Everyone has a view on you. Some of it quite scathing, some of it not particularly complimentary, and yet, you know, do you suck it all up, or do you go out and do you defend yourself? So Alex used to defend himself all the time, and he's a national treasure. You know, why can't Ange Postecoglou go out and say, well, listen, you've got your view on me, this is what I think of your comments? Because that's not just directed at, to be honest with you, the media that cover him are very balanced, and I know a lot of those guys who are in that press room. I think he takes issue with a lot of what the pundits think of him. And, you know, they're all professionals. You can almost let them go at each other in some respects. But he has a long track record stretching back to his time in Scotland, in Australia, he speaks up for himself. It's not any different now that he's in England. He is a guy who defends himself, and I say more power to him.
He's had to sort of fight and scratch to get to where he is. You know, he's gone round the houses to get to Spurs, to get to the Premier League. You know, managed in Japan, you know, started at the lower levels in Australia, been up in Scotland, and it's great to see a success story like that, and great to see that Spurs have given him an opportunity. And what we want to see in our game is characters. We want characters, and he is one of those. It's just sometimes a difficult watching some of his post-match interviews when they've lost at home to Ipswich or something, and he's really down.
There's a terrific one on, if you go onto YouTube, there's a terrific interview where there's one pundit who basically said he should have been relieved of one of his posts when he was in Australia. And he gives it back, and you know, they're in a split screen and they're going at each other, and that is who he is. He doesn't manage. He's not a shrinking violet. He's not the sort of person to just sit back and take it. And I say that's great.
And there's some amazing videos of his team talks as well. I don't know if you've seen these, but the way he puts himself across. And if you're a player in that dressing room, you want to play for him, and that'll hold him in good stead going into this final. Because I'd imagine one of those rousing team talks will bear fruit.
That'd be interesting, won't it? In terms of Manchester United, they face West Ham today, and Paul Scholes was talking midweek, you know, about their trophy history, basically. Do you think that will give them the edge, potentially, in this match against Spurs? Can they look back on history or not at all?
I think they've just got a winning mentality, and it's ridiculous saying that after the season that they've had, but you look how bad they've been the last couple of years. They've won the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. They're still winning trophies despite being as bad as what they have been, and that is a mentality thing, and I think that will help them going into the final. And you've got players in your team like Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes, winners, you know how to get over the line. That will hold them in good stead going into the final. I do think, although I think Spurs have got a better team, they've got winners to get them over the line, and that is just why I can't call this final. It's actually, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. It's going to be intriguing. But yeah, Manchester United do have the winners in that dressing room, and that might help them on the night. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to see what happens. You were talking about attracting players. I think one player who's going to benefit potentially if they do get the win and get the Champions League football is Casemiro. 25% raise he gets automatically just for him if they get Champions League
football. If you've got his agent's number, please pass it on. Because
I know.
He's done a terrific...
But arguably he's done the job in order to get them there as well. But I'm guessing, you know, they might be thinking, hang on a minute, well, then we've got somebody on their books that, you know, warrants a huge salary again.
Well, yeah, and for where Amorim wants to go, you do want winners either in the team squad or on the backroom staff side. There might well be a future for him, but if that money goes up, that's a problem. It's a weird problem, isn't it? Because they'll be in the Champions League and he will have helped them, but they've got another huge player who is not getting any younger, who is getting a huge amount of wages. So that's going to be a difficult one to wrestle with, and it's symptomatic of the problem they have at Manchester United. When you ask about who needs it not more, Man United need it massively, because otherwise they are stuck with a huge squad of players to whom they are paying big money who are not playing at the elite level, and that's a problem for them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.